Bartholomew Broom had imagined many post-retirement hobbies, collecting rare magical spoons, perhaps, or finally writing that epic ballad about shoes. But he had never pictured himself clasping a tarnished keyring the size of a hubcap while a solicitor in a powdered wig said, "Congratulations, sir. You are now the legal landlord of 17 Wyvern Walk." "Landlord?" Bartholomew squeaked. "I thought my great-aunt left me a cottage." "Technically, it is residential property," the solicitor replied, shoving assorted parchments at him. "One cottage, and 23 adjoining flats, and a gargoyle garden, and an attic dimension. Entirely up to codes, I'm sure." Bartholomew's beard bristled with suspicion. Buildings that came with their own dimension invariably came with their own headaches. Still, he'd already signed the paperwork, and besides, he'd always wanted a change of scenery. Off he went, clutching the keys and humming a bravely optimistic tune. The facade of 17 Wyvern Walk resembled a stack of pastries left too long in the sun, leaning slightly, sagging at the middle, and dusted with soot instead of sugar. A crooked sign over the door read, "Broom's Rooms not responsible for temporal drift." A brass door knocker shaped like a frog blinked awake when Bartholomew approached the new management. It croaked. "Indeed," said Bartholomew, straightening his violet robes. "Lucky us," the knocker muttered, then lapsed into snores. Inside, the lobby was a kaleidoscope of eccentricity. Staircases changed direction without warning. Rugs defied gravity, clinging to walls like bored bats. Most alarming, every square inch of wall space was occupied by portraits, the century-spanning relatives of some previous tenant, arguing in stage whispers, "I told you the crimson background clashes with my complexion," sniffed a powdered lady in a rococo frame. "Oh, hush, Eugenia," replied a mustachioed colonel. "Your complexion could clash with beige." "Excuse me," Bartholomew said politely. "I'm the new landlord." "About time," chorused a dozen frames. The last one left mid-sentence. Before Bartholomew could ask why, a gremlin in pinstripe pajamas bolted across the lobby, clutching a plunger like a spear. From the stairwell came the unmistakable sound of a geyser. "Burst pipes again," the gremlin hollered. "Third-floor waterfall incoming." A door opened overhead, and an entire river poured down the stairwell, bringing with it a rubber duck, 2 socks, and a bewildered goldfish. The portraits complained about humidity. Bartholomew sighed, hitched up his robes, and waded into his new job. The tenants assembled that evening for an introductory meeting, mandatory, according to a parchment that spontaneously stapled itself to every door. They gathered in the lobby on mismatched chairs that the building coughed up when asked. Bartholomew perched on a stool that insisted on playing carnival tunes every time he shifted his weight. Tenant roll call. Mrs. Poggin, an elderly goblin chef who ran a black market scone operation out of Flat 2B, Ansel Brightfang, a werewolf who taught jazz flute by night and shit on everything, Countess Lavinia du Nocturne, vampire barista, Flat 4C, allergic to decaf and sunlight. A stack of animated suitcases that introduced itself collectively as the Luggage Fellowship recently arrived from a quest and renting Flat 3A. Gerald, the gremlin plumber, unofficial but indispensable, plus half a dozen more. Dryads, sprites, and one invisible fellow who claimed to be present on moral support. Bartholomew cleared his throat. "I look forward to making this building a cozy, well-ordered home." Ansel Brightfang raised a hairy hand. The plumbing snarls at me. "You mean it gurgles?" "I mean it bears fangs," Ansel said, producing a dented flute. "Yesterday the toilet tried to bite C-sharp," Countess Lavinia waved a porcelain teacup. "And those portraits keep critiquing my wardrobe. One called my cloak gloomy chic and a worsted disaster." "Our ceiling fan keeps chanting poetry at 3 a.m., added a wood nymph couple. "Right," said Bartholomew, scribbling an optimistic list titled, "Problems to Fix Before Breakfast." Mrs. Poggin hammered the floor with her ladle. "Rent's due day after tomorrow, dearie. Fail to provide habitable conditions and we riot." Politely, of course. The portraits above them applauded. "Hear, hear, revolution in sensible shoes." Bartholomew felt 64 years of magical schooling had prepared him for many challenges. Dragon, diplomacy, potion explosions, the occasional existential crisis. But not disgruntled tenants with weaponized ladles. He straightened his hat. "Leave it to me. Day 1 of repairs, time 6 a.m. The plumbing, Bartholomew decided, must be tackled first. Gerald the Gremlin met him in the basement, which smelled like wet parchment and existential dread. Pipes are spellbound, Gerald explained, tapping a copper line that slithered away like an earthworm. Some fool enchanted the water to make it more energetic. Now it refuses to stay in pipes. Can we convince it? Maybe, if you speak fluent Riverish. Gerald handed Bartholomew a snorkel. Good luck. Bartholomew cast a diagnostic spell. Runes bloomed across the walls, revealing that the water had developed a personality. Exuberant, playful, and easily bored. It wanted, above all else, to explore. Understandable, Bartholomew murmured. He too had a wanderlust streak. So he negotiated. Dear aquatic entity, if you remain in the pipes during daylight, I will install viewing portholes so you can watch the building. The water gurgled thoughtfully, then retreated into the copper with a satisfied burble. Pipes aligned themselves, leaks sealed. Gerald whistled. Blimey, you gave it a television. Compromise, Bartholomew said, and ticked plumbing on his list with a smug flourish. Day 2, portrait diplomacy. The hallway now resembled a courtroom drama. Frames glowered at one another, trading barbs about hairstyle, brushstroke technique, lineage. Bartholomew entered wearing earmuffs and carrying a tea tray. Esteemed works of art, he said, setting down teacups. I propose a schedule. Schedule for what? Sneered Colonel Mustache. For arguing. 2 hours in the morning, 2 in the evening, quiet hours in between. Eugenia puffed. What if I have a mid-afternoon inspiration? Write it on a note card. Bartholomew produced a stack of them. You may post grievances on the notice board. I will moderate weekly. Muttered protests. But the offer of Earl Grey art could never resist tea, softened them. The portraits agreed, though one modernist piece only shrugged in abstract shapes. Day 3. Musical ceiling fan exorcism. The third-floor hallway echoed with rhythmic iambs. Spin, spin, O mortal kin, I summon winds to braid your sin. Bartholomew shouted over the draft. Show yourself, spectre. A translucent bard materialized mid-air, perched on the fan. I died before finishing my poem, it lamented. Now I recite drafts eternally. I'll make you a deal. Finish the poem, take residence in a notebook, and I'll get you published. Bartholomew conjured a leather journal. The bard gasped. A captive audience? Delightful! It dove into the notebook, and the fan settled into blissful silence. Things were going rather well until Tuesday afternoon of disastrous everything. Bartholomew sat in his makeshift office, a broom closet that kept multiplying brooms, when a shriek ricocheted down the stairwell. Countess Lavinia burst in, smoking slightly. The shower just turned me mortal for 30 seconds, she howled. Do you know what sunlight does to me? Gives you freckles? Bartholomew guessed. Worse, it gives me hope, she shuddered. Hot on her heels scampered Mrs. Poggin, covered head to toe in raspberry jam. Me jam jars exploded, the faucets ran with raspberry. Gerald sprinted past, trailing vines. Water's gone rogue again. At that moment, the portraits resumed full-volume debate, ignoring the schedule entirely. From every pipe in the building came a thunderous roar, and water red as jam blasted downward, filling hallways like a gelatinous tide. Bartholomew surfed a wave of sugary sludge into the lobby, clutching an umbrella as a makeshift paddle. He spotted the problem instantly. The porthole enchantment had glitched, adding an experiential synesthesia clause. The water was now sampling flavors. Worse, the main valve handle was stuck inside a maintenance hatch, currently guarded by a suit of armor that considered itself a unionized security officer. No authorized personnel beyond this point, the armor intoned, lifting its spear. I'm the landlord, Bartholomew protested. Insufficient credentials, must present Form 27B, imminent building peril. Bartholomew conjured the form, the portraits heckled his penmanship. The armor demanded 3 witness signatures. The water rose to knee level, then waist. Tenants paddled past on kitchen chairs. Sign here, Bartholomew barked at Colonel Mustache, who reluctantly dipped a mustache tip in ink. 2 more signatures from soggy nymphs, and the armor finally stepped aside. Inside the hatch, the valve lever had animated into a stubborn goat. It bleated, planting hooves on the floor. "I'm not turning for anyone," it declared. Bartholomew remembered a trick. Goats love riddles. He offered one. "I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I?" The goat frowned. "An echo." "Correct. Your reward. A reversible charm." Bartholomew flicked his fingers, and the goat transformed back into a lever. He cranked it hard. The raspberry tide receded. Bartholomew slumped against the wall, dripping jam. Tenants gathered around him, bedraggled but relieved. Countess Lavinia dabbed at her singed fringe. Mrs. Poggin shook her ladle. "This building is 2 misfires away from crumbling into soup." Bartholomew stood, jam soaking his socks, and addressed the crowd. "You deserve better. Clearly, quick fixes won't do. We need collective stewardship." The portraits booed. "Socialism, call it whatever you like," Bartholomew retorted. "You pictures want quieter halls. The tenants want functional rooms. The water wants entertainment. The building, I suspect, just wants attention. We can give everyone something if we work together." Ansel Brightfang wagged his tail. "Like a committee?" he asked hopefully. "Werewolves adore committees." "Yes, a building council," Bartholomew declared, conjuring parchment scrolls that sorted themselves into bylaws. Representatives from tenants, portraits, animated fixtures, and me as chair. Council meeting 1 convened in the rooftop garden under a full moon. Ansel provided mood music with his flute, now unbitten. The portraits attended via mobile easels. 2 pipes sent watery avatars that looked like jellyfish in waistcoats. Agenda 1. Plumbing Personality Management 2. Portrait. Behavioral Guidelines 3. Funding for Communal Improvements 4. Gargoyle Garden Grievances, Stones Feeling Unappreciated. Bartholomew unveiled his master plan. "We weave a building-wide harmony charm. Think of it as couples therapy for architecture. Every resident contributes an object of personal value, binding it into the spell. In return, the building promises stability and occasional controlled whimsy. Objects of value." Mrs. Poggin clutched her favorite rolling pin. "Won't lose it, will I?" "They're symbolic," said Bartholomew, "not consumed, merely borrowed by the spell. You'll get them back." Murmurs. Countess Lavinia offered a silver teaspoon. Ansel contributed a well-chewed reed from his flute. Gerald placed his trusty plunger. Even the goat lever chipped in, a pebble it had balanced on once. The portraits donated a single frame nail, remarking that it held their entire ecosystem. Bartholomew arranged the items in a circle, chalked sigils, and recited, "By broom and room, hearth and heart, bind these souls so none shall part." Light flowed like melted moonbeams, weaving between floorboards, racing up walls. Pipes hummed a lullaby. Portraits sighed. The building, for the first time in living memory, exhaled. The very next morning, Bartholomew performed an inspection. Water stayed obediently in pipes, singing sea shanties at low volume. Faucets dispensed only water and, on request, mild chamomile tea. The portraits conversed in conversational tones, reserving debates for the allotted hours. The gargoyles smiled, or maybe that was moss, but they certainly looked happier. Bartholomew posted a notice, "Grand reopening celebration tonight. Bring snacks." Water balloons provided, non-explosive. At dusk, paper lanterns drifted through hallways. The ceiling fan delivered gentle breezes, while the bard scrawled autographs in its notebook. Mrs. Poggin's scones? This batch, lemon zest, vanished by the dozen. Ansel led a conga line. The water formed floating bubbles for ambience. Even the frog door-knocker participated, croaking backup vocals. Halfway through the festivities, Bartholomew stepped onto the lobby staircase to address everyone. "My friends," he began, and realized he meant it, "what makes 17 Wyvern Walk extraordinary isn't its quirks, but the people and paintings and pipes inside it. Together, we turned chaos into community." Applause echoed from stone and canvas alike. Colonels saluted, modernist squiggles morphed into fireworks. For a moment, Bartholomew felt like the conductor of an impossible orchestra. Just then, The floor shuddered. A trapdoor Bartholomew had not known existed yawned open. From the darkness below rose a tiny, disgruntled demon holding an overdue rent notice from 132 years prior. "Who's in charge here?" it snarled. Bartholomew adjusted his landlord badge, freshly printed in gold foil by the building itself. "I am. How can I help?" The demon squinted at the harmonious crowd. Dancing vampires, laughing portraits, water creatures juggling bubbles. It sniffed. "This place used to be a nightmare." "Rebranded," Bartholomew said proudly. "Welcome to the neighborhood. Please take a balloon." Someone handed the demon a lavender water balloon. It squished the sphere, blinked, and, for reasons known only to the peculiar logic of the universe, laughed. "Fine. I'll waive the old debt if you let me DJ next party." Bartholomew shook its claw. "Deal." Months passed, measured not in headaches but in potluck suppers. When problems surfaced, and they did, after all, the building still housed an attic dimension, occasionally misplacing socks, the council convened, voices were heard, solutions devised. Bartholomew found himself thriving amid the clamor. One spring morning, while trimming vines that tried to recite limericks, he encountered the solicitor again. "Inspections, you know," the man said, pinching his nose at the racket. Bartholomew led him through shining corridors, past contented tenants and well-behaved pipes. The solicitor gawked. "How did you tame this madhouse?" "I didn't," Bartholomew replied. "I invited it to perform." As the solicitor departed, nearly tripping over a dancing broom, Bartholomew leaned against a banister. Sunlight filtered through stained glass windows, painting the hallway in joyous colors. The building hummed a melody, part river song, part flute riff, part portrait gossip. Bartholomew Broom, wizard, landlord, unwitting maestro, closed his eyes and listened, smiling at the symphony he would spend the rest of his days conducting.